When we talk about poetry, there are many things that we could say. For example, there are short poems, long poems, poems that rhyme, poems that look like pictures, silly poems, sad poems, and so many more. So just what is a poem then, if there are so many different kinds? How can you even tell if something's supposed to be a poem? Well, the dictionary says a poem is a composition in verse, especially one that is characterized by a highly developed artistic form and by the use of heightened language and rhythm to express an intensely imaginative interpretation of the subject. Well, that doesn't exactly make it any easier to understand. Basically, what they're trying to say is that a poem is a beautiful piece of writing with special types of words that have rhythm or musical movement to them that allow whoever is reading them to create a picture in their minds about what they're reading. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about that special language. In fact, it has a name, figurative language. These parts of language are kind of like the superheroes of creative writing. The first type of figurative language is called imagery. Imagery is exactly what it sounds like, words that paint an image or a picture for us in our minds. Many times imagery makes us use our five senses: taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell. Here I'll give you an example. Glittering white, the blanket of snow covered everything in sight. Can't you just see the glittering snow? Feel the crunch of it under your feet? Taste it on your tongue? Now that's good writing. Our next type of figurative language is a metaphor. A metaphor is when we compare or match two things that are not at all alike, like a heart and the sun. So if I were to say, my heart is a burning sun, we're comparing two things that are completely different, but still describing how much warmth I have in my heart in a more interesting way. Our next figurative language tool is a simile. It's very close to what a metaphor is, but a simile has two important words in it that let us know it's a simile and not a metaphor. Those words are like or as. For example, my car is as fast as lightning. Here our signal word as in there. Alliteration is next. Alliteration is when the sound at the beginning of words are repeated, like in Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. The beginning of each of those words starts with the p sound. Next is onomatopoeia. That's a big word, but I bet once you know what it is, you can all come up with examples. An onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like a sound. Words like fizz, buzz, and boom. Our final piece of figurative language that we'll talk about today is hyperbole. A hyperbole is when we take something and exaggerate it a bunch. Basically, that means making something more extreme, exciting, crazy, or more funny than it actually is. Like my backpack weighs a ton is an extreme way of saying that it's really heavy. These are just a few types of the figurative language that poems have in them. So as we continue to look at poems, keep your eyes out for our figurative language friends.
Created using Powtoon.